Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm talking about all the horror books I've read recently. Okay, so this is a list of books I read in January and February. It's a decent amount for myself. I've been struggling a lot lately to read and just do anything, so I think I'm pretty proud of myself. So in January, I read No Exit, which I vlogged this experience for Winterween, which I can link that down below and up top, whatever. But this book was so good, and it's centered on a young college student named Darby who is driving to see her mother who is ill. She's driving across country and an impending snowstorm is coming, and she has to take a detour at a rest stop where there's a bunch of strangers hauled up in there to wait out the snow. And when she's there, she notices there is a van and a little girl is tied up in the back. And it basically sets off this whole trajectory of this insane journey of her trying to save this girl and figure out who is responsible, who is the owner of the van, and who she can trust and who she can't. And this story is insane. It is fast-paced. I was on the edge of my seat the whole way through. It's a really intense cat and mouse game between our main character and the villain. The villain is so good, and I love that they're just so over the top, and we get their backstory of why they're the way they are. And it's just the story, a lot of the stuff that's happening, I just kept going, oh my god, like come on. Our main character does not get a break throughout this whole story. It's just like heart pounding, and it gave me 2000s early thriller vibes. They actually just released the movie version on Hulu, which I didn't like. I did not like as much. I didn't capture the intensity of the book to me, and I don't feel like they let the main character of Darby really shine in the film, because she gets to shine in this book. She's badass. She goes through hell, and I just feel like we didn't get enough of that in the film. The film is okay. I think that because I loved this book so much, it hindered my feelings for the movie. Like if I hadn't read the book and watched the movie, I probably would have liked the movie a lot more, but who knows. Also included in that vlog is Stolen Tongues. The story centers on a couple who are staying at a cabin in the middle of the woods, and really strange things start happening, and strange things start happening to the girlfriend. The first half of this book is so good. It is incredibly unsettling and eerie, and just this super creepy atmosphere. And they're in this isolated setting in the middle of winter, and it's dark most of the time, so it gave me chills reading. But then the second half, it kind of lost me. It becomes very repetitive, and the same things are happening over and over, and the end just felt rushed and thrown together. I think that this story should have been a short story, because it was brilliant in the first half. Then I read Deserter by Junji Ito. This is another short story collection of his, and I loved this one. This is filled with a lot of intense body horror, gross imagery. It's just great. There was a lot of stories in here that made me cringe and creeped me out, and it was a whole variety of them. I liked a lot of the stories in this, so I was really glad I read this. So now we're moving into February, which I think was a better reading month for me. I started the month off with Misery by Stephen King. This is a book that has been on my TBR forever, and I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed it. It centers on a writer named Paul Sheldon. He has just finished his latest manuscript, and he is driving home and he crashes, and lucky for him, he gets rescued by his biggest fan, Annie Wilkes, and she takes him to her home, her secluded home, farmhouse, and she starts taking care of him. But he quickly realizes that she has no plans of letting him leave. This book, I always hesitated to read it because it sounds like it's going to be a boring story. It's like centered in one room. How exciting can it get? but it is intense. I have never felt so much dread reading a book because the character of Annie Wilkes is so unhinged. She's so scary because she's so seemingly normal on the outside, and she seems nice, and the way she talks, she doesn't swear. She just seems like a gullible, lovable woman, and then if you do something, just the tiniest thing, or say the tiniest thing, it will set her off, and she goes insane, and she becomes violent, and she's terrifying. She's absolutely terrifying, and I think she's one of my favorite villains I've ever read. It's just the psychological torment that she puts Paul Sheldon through. It's so intense, and reading from Paul's perspective I had so much anxiety. My chest was so tight because I was so worried for him, and you want him to figure out how to get out of the situation, but it feels so hopeless. This is one of Stephen King's bests, I think, and everybody's right. I highly recommend this. This is a perfect starter, Stephen King. It's not too intense in the gore and violence, but it has some pretty violent moments. So beware, but yeah, I love this one. This was a great read. Next, I followed that up with The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn. I don't know how to say her name. This is a really short novella. I really enjoyed it. It centers on a woman who is basically a con woman, and the way this story starts, the first line of this book, it hooked me, and it told me what I would expect, but I can't read it to you because it's inappropriate. But she works in a massage parlor that specializes in certain things, and she also starts telling fortunes to people. She pretends that she is a psychic, and this woman approaches her. She says she's having this severe issue at her home. She believes her home is haunted, and it's affecting her son or her stepson, and she begs this woman, for help. And the woman is like, oh yes, this is going to be my new business venture. I'm going to target all these rich, wealthy families and tell them that I'm going to clean their home. But then when she gets there, she gets wrapped up in it. She believes that it's actually legit, and it just is this bizarre journey, and it's so weird, and I don't think that everything is clear. It kind of plays with your head a little bit, and I think it's filled with wit and humor that Gillian Flynn does best, and I really liked it. I saw mixed reviews for this. I know some people didn't like it. They didn't know where it went or where it was going, but I like the ambiguity of it, and it just made me want another book by her so bad. It has been so long, Gillian. Please give me another one. I don't think she's written anything since freaking Gone Girl. She's just that's it. I wrote that. That's all I gotta do. And I respect that, but also I don't like it. I want another Gillian Flynn book, please, because we need you, Gillian. We need you. Next, I picked up Verity by Colleen Hoover. This is another popular one on Book Talk and BookTube. Mostly Book Talk. That's how I found out about it. So I actually bought this book for my mom for Christmas, not knowing that it's filled with smut. And that's kind of awkward and embarrassing that I bought her that. But she loved it. She read it in 2 days, which is insanely good for her because she's not a huge reader. She doesn't read very quickly. She couldn't put this one down. So I was like, okay, let me read it. It's about a writer who is paid by this publishing company to finish the works of this other more famous author who she's incapacitated. She was in a very bad accident and she can't finish the book herself. So they hire this writer, and she stays in their home with her husband and the husband's kid, and she starts learning more about this author and her dark history. It's really messed up, the stuff that this author has done throughout her life. It will shock you. I was like, what? I was like, oh my god, it's just stuff you wouldn't expect. It seems so over the top, but it's the kind of stuff that I like in my stories, so I was like, hell yeah. The thing I wasn't super into is the smut. it was just like, okay, I get it. I get it. You're having amazing sex. Can we get to the good stuff, like the creepy stuff? I'm just not a smutty or romance person, and there's a romance element to it that I wasn't crazy about. And it didn't feel believable to me. I was like, these people barely know each other. Why are they like in love? They've barely spoken. It was just like, okay, whatever. It was all a fantasy, but I get it. My mom liked the smut, she told me. So anyway, she's a Colleen Hoover stan now, and she's read like 4 books by her since this. I don't know, I just liked it. I wasn't obsessed with it as everybody else seems to be, but I think it's a fun, quick read. I also have another book of hers that my mom read. She didn't really like it because it's more on the supernatural side. It's called Layla, and I want to read that one next because it sounds like it's more up my alley than Verity. So we'll see. Then I picked up Waif by Samantha Kolesnik. She also wrote a book called True Crime, which I desperately want to read. This book, though, it is so weird. It's about a woman who is in an unhappy marriage, an abusive marriage, and she has a chance encounter with this man at a grocery store, and she falls in love with him. Like, she becomes obsessed with him, and she's like, this is my perfect guy. He's all I want. And it sets her life on this bizarre journey of plastic surgery and prawn. I don't want to say the actual word. I don't know if I can say these words. It's weird. Body modification stuff. It just goes places I didn't know where it was going, and it's not stuff you would expect, and it's just dark. It's very dark. The character, she's struggling to find herself and her sexual identity, and it examines that. I got a little confused towards the end. It felt like things were kind of rushed together towards the end, but the story as a whole was really intriguing, and I couldn't put it down. And it's super quick. It's only like 100 and something pages, and it's just a dark story. And the last book I read in the month of February was When the Reckoning Comes by LaTanya McQueen. This is a story about a young black woman who she receives a call from her childhood best friend saying she's having a wedding, but it's at a plantation, and she begs her to come. She's like, come on, we're best friends, please be there for me. And she learns that their other childhood best friend is also going to be there, so she's like, all right, I'll go. But she has some reservations, and when she gets there, basically she sees how this plantation has kind of erased the horrifying past of what happened there with slaves, and it is kind of making it like this resort spa type place. I thought it did a great job at examining that part. It made me think about the whole plantation wedding thing and how messed up it is, and how the people, everybody who worked there it was like they were like reenacting certain things, and it's insane. That stuff was horrifying in itself, to see all these people coming to watch these people reenact these horrifying conditions and act like none of the horrifying things that happened back then happened. It was just, that part was scary and sad and just shocking. It's shocking, but believable. Like, I can believe that this happens. But I was waiting for the actual ghost element, the reckoning, because the plantation that this wedding is happening at, it's infamous within the town for being haunted, and that like several people died in there in their past. We get some of it towards the end. I wish we got a little bit more of it throughout the story, but there was a nice build up to it. I really felt the dread and tension. I was waiting for it to come, and when it does, it just hits you in the face, and you're like, oh my god. It's just very traumatizing, I would think, to some readers. It's like just showcasing all the horrifying things that happened to black people during the age of slavery, and it's just like one horrific scene after the other. So I guess I can understand why they didn't put that throughout the whole story. It's just towards the end, it's just like you're bombarded with it. It helps this character learn a lot about herself, because she's a black woman and she's struggled her whole life to kind of hide from who she is and be something she's not. And it's a really interesting story. I wish there was more of the ghost element to it, but I do like what it did with the plantation story. So I think if you go into this story knowing that it's not going to be overly supernatural with ghosts and jump scares, it's more about the horrific history and how some people try to erase that history and put a nice bow on it, then I think you'll like this. I think you'll like the characters and the friendship between the three main characters. It was really interesting to read, and I overall really liked it. Whew. And there you have it. Those are all the books I read in January and February. Overall, pretty good month. I liked pretty much everything I read, which is nice. And I read a lot from female authors, which is also fun for me. I like that. But you know what? I hate that Taylor Adams is Taylor Adams. I feel like he's trying to trick me into thinking he's a woman because I keep thinking he's a woman with that name. Anyway, what did you read recently? Did you read any of the books that I talked about? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I will catch you next time, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.